Today we're going to go back and revisit Hogwarts Legacy with the Steam Deck, and to start it off we're going to be playing the game at 800p at the lowest settings. And here we are in the settings. This game had a decent launch. It was very intensive still obviously on the CPU and on the GPU, but on the Steam Deck it was playable at 30 FPS at the low settings. Obviously using FSR will help with that as well, but right now we're getting 40 FPS with occasional dips into the 30s as well. We do get a couple of stutters here and there, but overall, it's quite a smooth experience. I still think for this game, 30 FPS is the way to go, but if you want to play the game at 40 FPS, I guess you can. The most satisfying spell ever, dude. I can't stop using it. It is so fun. Boom. As you guys can see in the fights, it's playing fine. It's not stuttering or lagging at all. It's a great experience all around. Now for this video, I'm going to be testing out in two locations, in the Forbidden Forest and in Hogsmeade. The Forest will be GPU intensive and Hogsmeade will be CPU intensive. So you guys already saw how it ran in the Forest. Let's go to Hogsmeade. Alright, here we go. So far we're sitting in the low 30s and jumping up into the mid 30s. It's quite decent, but it does feel kind of stuttery. So that's why I would go with a 30 FPS cap, even at the low preset. It will give us the most stable and consistent experience possible. But yeah, overall the low settings looks fine. I don't like the pop-in, and the graphics look kind of blurry at times as well. So it's okay, but it can be better. Alright, let's go and pause the game, enable FSR 2.0, and try again. Now using FSR 2.0, at the quality preset, we are sitting in the low 40s. Beforehand, we were sitting in the low 30s up into the mid 30s. Now we're sitting in the mid to high 30s / the low 40s. The game is still stuttering, to be honest. It's not like super smooth still, but it will give us headroom for those heavy situations when playing at 30 FPS. Okay, let's make our way back to the forest again and see what we can get there. We had a couple stutters there beforehand, but overall it was pretty smooth, and again sitting in the mid to high 30s. Still have the same stutters, so not changed there, but again we gain a bit of headroom for those heavier scenes. And also, as you guys can see, GPU is now pulling 9 watts and CPU is pulling like 3 watts. So again, the forest is very GPU intensive and Hogsmeade is very CPU intensive. And here we are at the medium settings. Okay, let's jump into it and see what we can get. Very intensive all around, guys, and it's stuttering all over the place. I guess it can be playable still at 30 FPS, but it won't be the most enjoyable. Okay, let's go fly towards the forest and see what we get there. Our lowest FPS has been around 25 so far, and our highest was like 31, 32, so not too great. The game does look a lot better, but the performance hit is far too much. But I think with FSR, we can make this playable. There we go, that's what I need. That's what I need, and then you're done. Oh, this spell is so satisfying. Each and every time. Never gets old. Okay, the stutters are happening a bit more, but FPS wise, sitting in the high 20s pretty much on average. So at this point, let's pause the game, use FSR at the Balanced preset, and see what that can do for us. The low 40s now, sitting here. Not too bad. I'm not a huge fan of the sharpening. If I'm standing still, it looks great. It looks just like native 800p. But as soon as I pan the camera around, it gets really over sharpened. Not a huge fan of it, but I'm just nitpicking at this point. I'm going to expect us to be having stutters here, but hopefully the FPS stays above 30 the whole way through. We do have some dips into the high 20s, to be honest. It still does happen. It's not fully perfect. And the stutters again are still happening too. I don't know, the medium setting so far isn't great. If we do a mix of low and medium, it can be very playable at 30. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and fly to Hogsmeade now and see what we can get there. But I'm assuming low 30s, but heaps of stuttering. The low 30s, yeah, there we go. And the high 20s occasionally. But the stuttering is insane at this point. Yeah, it's freezing every second pretty much. Not very playable, guys. And here we are at the high preset. There we go. No FSR as well, of course. Let's jump into it. Oh my god. 20 FPS so far. That is awful. And the grass is loading in one piece at a time. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah. Not surprised here. The medium settings wasn't playable, so the high settings, of course, won't be playable either. Let's fly to the forest and see what the lowest FPS is going to be. Wow, this is a slideshow at this point, guys. 20 FPS. And falling as well. It's definitely far worse in the forest. Way more stuttery. It's like freezing every second pretty much. But let's enable FSR now. Use the performance preset. Maybe that can save us. Maybe. Alright, FSR 2.0. Using performance mode. We're now sitting in the mid to high 20s. The game looks pretty awful. And FPS wise, very similar, guys. Still falling into the like 15 FPS range. And up into the low to mid 20s. It's better outside of the forest. It's far more stable. But the image quality is literally trash. It's so bad. Let's pause the game here. Go up to the optimal settings. And go from there. And now for the optimized settings, we're going for a mix of medium, low, and high. Going into graphics. Here we are with the settings. And FSR, set to balanced. Okay, so for this preset, I'm aiming at 30 FPS. That is the goal anyway. A stable 30 FPS experience without any stuttering. But as you guys can see, we're sitting mainly in the high 30s right now. Let's call in the broom. Fly to the forest. So obviously with the uncapped frame rate, the game will be stuttering regardless. But with a 30 FPS cap, should be a very stable experience. I'm going to go ahead and fly around the forest for a little bit. As you guys can see, we're in the 30s with occasional stutters. And now playing with a 30 FPS cap, it's very smooth. Far smoother than before. Now the main issue with the medium settings, or I guess mostly the medium settings, is Hogsmeade. The game will be stuttering just like before. It won't be as bad, but it will still be happening, which is a problem. So far so good. But as you guys can see, it does stutter here and there like before. It's not as bad, but it still does happen. So what you can do to help it out a little bit is to go into settings and lower the population quality and view distance quality to low. It won't look as good. The game will feel a bit dead, but if you want to have very little stuttering, then that's the way to do it. But I think for me personally, have it on medium so the world actually feels alive and looks good as well. Finally, for your battery life, it will all depend on where you are and what you're doing. In those heavier scenes like Hogsmeade or the forest, you're going to be getting like an hour and 40 minutes of gameplay time. And in those lighter scenes, it'll be 2 hours up to 2.5 hours of gameplay time, which is pretty decent. Let's go ahead and play the game in dock mode now. I'm going to aim for 900p. Hopefully it plays well, but I'm guessing it won't be the best experience. Let's go try it out. Okay, and here we are in dock mode, 900p. The same settings as before. And so far, so good. Getting 30 FPS in Hogsmeade. Stuttering is definitely there though. Does happen still, so keep that in mind. Now I'm guessing once we actually go to the forest, that's when the FPS will actually fall down and start going crazy. Alright, already on the broom it's stuttering, so not a good start. Our lowest FPS has been around 21, but at the same time, it's doing a decent job to be honest. 900p at 30 FPS, or mostly 30 FPS, is quite impressive. At the medium settings too. There we go, in the forest it's definitely far worse though. 27 FPS on average, and down to 24 even at times. So at this point you have three options. You could either lower the resolution to 720p, use the same settings. The second option is to lower the quality of the game to the low preset instead of medium. And the last option is to use a more aggressive FSR preset. I think for me personally, this is fine. Even though it's very stuttery in the forest, it's still a good time. This is a handheld system, and it's playing mostly at 30 FPS in dock mode. If you look at the Switch for example, in those heavier titles in dock mode, or even handheld mode, it does fall into the 20s quite often. So to be honest, I'm fine with this. It's still playable for me. But at the end of the day, it will all depend on you. If you don't like it, you know what to do. And you should have a good time playing this game overall. Alright, I think that's about it. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll catch you guys next time for the next video. See you guys there.